Today is the 6th of April. This is the International Day for Sport for Development and Peace. That is something that was created by the United Nations back in 2013. The following year, 2014, it was supported by the International Olympic Committee. So you have these two major international organizations that are promoting this idea of sport for development and peace. Sport for development and peace is actually quite a recent area of study and of activity in terms of how it works. So it's really only in the 1990s that this became an important aspect of development and peace-related activities, but it has very quickly been adopted by a whole range of international organizations. The United Nations, the Olympic movement, but also the African Union talks about this, the Council of Europe, various other organizations as well, and including also a number of non-governmental organizations. So groups like Amnesty International and various development agencies have begun to prioritize sport for peace and development. So the basic idea is that yes, sport can be a really important accelerator for making sure that development activities and sustainable approaches to development plus peace can actually be achieved. So it's a really positive political way of thinking about the role of sport in modern society. But of course, what makes it interesting is that there is a debate. It's not just automatically a good thing. There are controversies, there are issues around this. So at one level, we have an awful lot of sport and development activities that are taking place at a very community-based level. So engaging with local villages in Africa or in Asia or wherever, and encouraging the pupils to take part in sport as a means of encouraging their social development, their cultural development, and so on. So there's a really positive dimension. But what we've also seen over the last 20, 30 years as sport for development and peace has grown in importance has been the way it is used as well by very large, powerful organizations. There are arguments, for example, about the hosting of the World Cup in Qatar, that this is an example of sport for development and peace. And we can see immediately how that also brings in questions about, well, sports washing, of using sporting events to try to mask some of the things that are going on in countries. And again, we've seen that in relation to Russia, in relation to other countries as well. So it's a very complex area. It's a really important initiative in terms of trying to encourage sport being used for these positive goals of development and peace. But at the same time, we need to understand how certain groups interpret some of that to produce outcomes that are perhaps things that we might also be slightly more critical of. So we can see here a kind of a really interesting political tension that needs to be explored. This year, the theme for the International Day for Sport for Development and Peace is focusing particularly on social inclusion and of how we can try to use sport to bring about those kinds of positive goals. And it's looking particularly at inclusiveness in terms of gender, inclusiveness in terms of minority groups within society, from a wide range of particular views and interests. We can see how this becomes a very positive force for encouraging engagement, cooperation between different peoples. And again, it also raises some of the interesting political issues where there are controversies about countries, for example, countries where women's participation in sporting activities has been significantly reduced. I'm thinking here one very strong example is Afghanistan, where the Taliban have forbidden women from taking part. Several women escaped from Afghanistan in order to be able to pursue sporting careers, particularly in cricket, which is a major sport there. So we can see here again some of the tensions, that there's a very good objective for sport for development and peace. It has very, very positive goals, so it's an important thing to try to do, but of course, that also means it creates controversy, it creates challenges, and it creates politics.